on Goblin Reddit. Today's story is...
My wife left us for a rich man, and when she tried to get back with expensive gifts, my children gave her a lesson in karma that she will never forget. At the beginning of our marriage, I thought I was building something lasting. I met my wife during our university years. We shared interests and decided to face the future together. I imagined that we had the same dreams of starting a family and growing old next to each other. I considered that our children, Carter and Charlotte, were the most valuable thing in our lives. Little by little, everything changed. It started with insignificant details. More nights out with colleagues, secret phone conversations, and a distance that I couldn't identify. I attributed it to stress, or perhaps to the daily monotony that was getting to us. Then I discovered the reality. It wasn't just any adventure. She was having an affair with a wealthy businessman. According to her, this man could offer her a better future and understand her in a way that I never could. The day she confessed it, she tried to present it as a new beginning for her, an opportunity to find happiness. But I only saw ruins. Carter, aged 14, overheard our argument and stormed out when he found out. Charlotte, barely 11, clung to me crying, asking me why Mommy didn't love us anymore. What answer could I give her? After the divorce, she left, leaving the children with me. Initially, I hoped she would try to reconcile. I thought she would fight for them, for us, in some way. But no, she packed her things and jumped straight into her new life with Mr. Fatty, as Carter bitterly called him. It wasn't just his departure, it was the way he left. He claimed he was looking for a fresh start, free from the shackles of a mediocre existence. His words, not mine. He said the little ones would understand one day, and that I should stop resenting him. Resenting him? I wasn't resentful. I was devastated. The children needed no convincing to take sides. They rejected her overtures, ignored her messages, and even blocked her on social media. Carter, being the most expressive, declared that any mother capable of abandoning her family for a shiny new man didn't deserve to be called a mother. Charlotte said little. She simply stood by me in silence, her confidence broken in a way she didn't know how to remedy. I'm not sinking. We adapted to our new reality. Just the three of us. It wasn't easy. Yes, we had financial resources, but emotions were running high, and I was juggling work and raising a child alone, but we managed because we had no alternatives. Then came the announcement. Suddenly, my ex sent a message to Carter and Charlotte saying that he had something important to share and hoped they would listen. Neither showed any interest, but out of curiosity, I quickly checked the email he sent me. She was engaged to the man she left us for, and the wedding would take place in the spring. She expressed her hope that we could be cordial and that the children would participate in her big day. Carter laughed out loud, a harsh, cutting sound uncharacteristic of a boy his age. He declared that he would not attend even if she offered him a new car. Charlotte didn't even look at the message. She said she had nothing to say to a woman who only remembered them when it suited her. Weeks later, she began to show up acting as if she had never left. She put on a show, bringing gifts, designer clothes, expensive gadgets, tickets to theme parks. She said she wanted to rebuild her relationship with the children now that her life was stable. Carter confronted her immediately, commenting on how funny it was that her idea of reconciliation only came about after she found a man to finance it. The children wanted nothing to do with her. They barely recognized her when she came, and every attempt at connection was met with cold indifference. I won't lie, I didn't dislike the children's attitude. They were perceptive. She hoped they would fall for her as soon as she showed her credit card, but they saw through the facade. She sought me out after another failed attempt, frustrated and blaming me. She claimed that I had poisoned the children against her, filling their minds with lies and turning them into little soldiers for my revenge. I told her the truth, clearly and directly. I didn't need to utter a single word, which was true. Her actions spoke louder than anything I could say. By the time of his wedding, I had given up asking the children to attend. Instead, he immersed himself in the lavish event, posting every detail online as if to show the world that he was living his best life. Carter and Charlotte hardly noticed. They were too busy with their own activities. But I could sense that their absence still weighed on them. Carter channeled his anger into sarcasm and avoidance, while Charlotte became quieter, more reserved. I tried to be enough for them, but I knew I couldn't completely fill the void she left. And then, just when things seemed to be getting back to normal, she tried to buy their affection again. Only this time she gambled big. A family vacation in Europe, new phones, shopping. She said it was all because she loved them and wanted to make up for lost time. But Carter, now 15 and more perceptive than ever, asked the one question she couldn't answer. Why did it take so long? Why did she only care now that she had everything she wanted? And why did she think money could replace the nights she wasn't there when they needed her most? Charlotte, traditionally more gentle, simply said that she didn't trust her. She said she couldn't accept gifts from someone who was incapable of keeping their promises. Watching them stand their ground, I felt pride, but also sadness. They were so young, yet they carried so much suffering. It was unfair, but it was their reality. All she could do was continue to support them, no matter how many times she tried to return to their lives. Update 1. Little did she know that her attempts were just beginning. And this time she would not take no for an answer. I knew they were processing their grief in their own way. Carter had started spending more time in his bedroom, with headphones on, music playing so loud that I could hear the bass rumbling through the walls. Charlotte was also expressing her anger more openly, which surprised me. She would ask things like why Mom chose someone else over us. I had no answers. I could only assure them that we would get through this together and that I loved them deeply. Carter ignored most of their messages directly, while Charlotte simply handed the phone back to me with a dismissive look. I tried not to interfere, allowing them to process their feelings naturally. I wasn't going to dictate how they should feel about someone who had disappointed them so deeply. It wasn't long before the new marriage took center stage in their lives. Charlotte asked me how her mother could move on so quickly. I told her the truth, that some people deal with their mistakes by rushing into distractions instead of facing the consequences. Her attempts to involve the children in her new life became more aggressive. She sent photos of lavish outings with her fiancé and their children, with comments about how much fun they would have if Carter and Charlotte joined them. The underlying message was clear. Money could soften the betrayal and buy her forgiveness. When she began calling more frequently, it wasn't because she wanted to repair the damage. It was because she needed the children to participate in her facade. Her new fiancé knew that she was married during her affair, but he was unaware of the real reasons behind our divorce, and she wanted the children to collaborate with the narrative of an amicable separation. I discovered this when Carter showed me a message from her, asking him to be polite and not complicate things during a dinner she was planning. Carter's anger was intense. She told me she wouldn't sit there pretending everything was fine just because she wanted to impress someone. Charlotte, for her part, was quieter. She said it made her sad that her mother cared more about her fiancé's opinion than their feelings. I contacted my ex trying to mediate. I explained that pressuring the children to accept a false narrative would only drive them further away. She dismissed my concerns, accusing me of turning them against her. According to her, I had failed to encourage the children to maintain a relationship with her, as if her betrayal could be forcefully forgotten. The dinner marked a crucial point. Against her wishes, she arranged for Carter and Charlotte to attend, promising them a good time, and then ambushing them with a group photo to show off her perfect family. Carter left halfway through the meal, leaving the photograph incomplete, and Charlotte collapsed during the evening. She was crying in the car when I picked them up. After that, the children refused to see her. Carter wanted to block her number, and Charlotte told me she didn't want to visit her mother anymore, not even on vacation. I assured them that I would support whatever decision they made, but I knew their choice was not something to be taken lightly. They were fed up with her games, and so was I. She did not take kindly to their rejection. Initially, she intensified the gifts and promises. When that failed, she resorted to guilt, sending long messages about how much she missed them and how they were punishing her unfairly. It was manipulative and exhausting. In her frustration, she began spreading stories about how I was predisposing the children against her. Friends and even some family members questioned me as to why I wasn't encouraging reconciliation, as if their actions had never happened. I explained that the children were old enough to make their own decisions. I wasn't going to belittle their feelings to suit my own. I asked them to keep their nose out of our business, as their partners weren't the ones who had been unfaithful. The final blow came when she tried to involve her fiancé in her attempts to win them back. She sent him to talk to Carter after school one day, claiming he could help improve their relationship. Carter came home more furious than ever, ranting about how he didn't need some stranger to tell him to forgive his own mother. It was clear that she still didn't understand. Forgiveness cannot be forced or bought. It is earned through genuine effort and responsibility, neither of which she had demonstrated. She had hurt them deeply, and instead of taking responsibility, she only made the situation worse by prioritizing her new life over her family, over the children she left behind. The children didn't need me to defend their decisions. They were perfectly capable of doing it themselves. But as their father, I wouldn't allow anyone, not even their mother, to undermine their right to feel hurt and betrayed. They deserved better, and I would make sure they never doubted it. Update 2. I won't lie, she made me furious again. But I kept my attention on the children. They needed stability, not a father consumed by resentment. One weekend, my ex turned up unannounced at our house, an expensive handbag slung over her arm and a forced smile on her face. She wanted to take the children out for the day. Carter flatly refused, citing unfinished homework. Charlotte looked at me, silently asking if she should go. I told her it was up to her, and she hesitated before shaking her head. The rejection hit my ex hard. I don't understand why. She should be used to it by now. She complained about the irrationality of children and how I encouraged this hostility. I didn't lose my temper, but I didn't soften my words either. I told her it would take more than showing up with a flashy vehicle and weekend plans. She didn't take it well, accusing me of the same old thing. I couldn't help but be sarcastic. I asked her if she really thought it was possible to walk away from our family because of an infidelity, marry her lover, and return as if nothing had happened. She left in a rage, shouting about the children's ingratitude and my manipulations. I replied nonchalantly that they didn't really care enough to thank an unfaithful mother. She almost tripped when she heard that. The critical moment occurred during a school meeting for Charlotte. My ex and I were invited, the first time we had met up since her impromptu visit. She looked impeccable as always, but her smile faltered when neither Carter nor Charlotte recognized her. After the meeting, she cornered me in the hallway. She expressed her disbelief at my permissiveness in allowing the children to treat her like a stranger. She insisted that I had predisposed them against her, feeding them a narrative in which she was the villain. I didn't hold back. I told her that the children didn't need my help to see the truth. They had lived it. They remembered the nights she spent with her lover while I tried to explain to them why Mom didn't have dinner at home. She had prioritized her happiness over their stability. She responded sharply, saying that it wasn't a betrayal, just a choice for her happiness. I believe that Carter and Charlotte were too young to understand adult complexities. Her tone suggested that such complexities should excuse everything: their affair, the lies, and the disruption caused. I told her she was deluding herself if she thought they didn't understand. Children may not grasp every detail, but they see enough to know when someone has stopped committing to them. Carter remembered her absences at soccer games, even before the divorce, with flimsy work excuses. Charlotte remembered when her mother forgot about her school play while enjoying a weekend with her new boyfriend. I made it clear that I didn't need to say anything to turn them against her. Her actions spoke for themselves, but my ex refused to listen. She called me cruel, accusing me of keeping the children away to punish her. I laughed bitterly. If anything, I had gone to extraordinary lengths to give her opportunities for redress. I reminded her of the many times I encouraged the children to visit or listen to her, only for her to cancel plans or arrive late, initially prioritizing her new boyfriend over them. Her voice became quieter but sharper. She said she was willing to do whatever it took to fix the situation now. She wanted me to intervene, to reason with them, and remind them that she was still their mother. I refused outright. I told her that relationships cannot be bought, neither with lavish gifts nor with forced apologies. If she wanted my forgiveness, I should start by acknowledging my mistakes and making a constant effort instead of simply claiming that I acted out of happiness. That made her angry. She accused me of siding completely with them, of pretending to be perfect while using the children to punish her. She demanded to know what kind of father I was, allowing my children to harbor so much anger and bitterness. I replied that I was the kind of father who stayed, who was present every day through the chaos and desolation she left behind. Finally, I returned her words. I told her that the children were prioritizing their happiness over hers, and that she simply did not understand the complexities of being a child. She paled at that. It was exhausting repeating the same arguments. Carter and Charlotte had every right to feel the way they did, and I wouldn't allow her to manipulate me into pretending otherwise. Also, I need to thank all of you for your immense support. It's true what they say about finding more solidarity in strangers than in one's own family. Update 3. The children had been quiet for a while. Carter, always the most expressive, had concentrated on his studies and sports, while Charlotte busied herself with her sketchbook, creating detailed illustrations that she rarely shared. One night, as we were resting in the living room, I, with my coffee on the sofa, Carter stretched out on the rug, and Charlotte in an armchair. They finally broke the silence. It began with a casual question from Carter about his mother's current life. Did she live in a mansion? Was her husband really as wealthy as they said? I replied calmly, explaining that yes, her new life was comfortable, but wealth did not guarantee happiness. I assured them that although I couldn't speak for her, my priority was that they feel safe and loved here. Carter frowned, asking why she left if she had everything she needed before. His tone was not angry, just confused, as if trying to solve a mathematical problem with no clear solution. Charlotte, silent until then, looked up from her notebook and said it was because she didn't love us enough. Her words shocked me more than I showed, but I quickly reassured her, explaining that her mother's decisions did not reflect how much she loved them. Charlotte looked incredulous. Carter remained silent before asking the unexpected question, "How did I feel when your mother was unfaithful?" The atmosphere seemed to compress under the weight of his words. I took a deep breath, seeking to balance honesty and delicacy, and explained that initially it hurt indescribably. When you love and trust someone completely, discovering that breach of trust feels like a devastating blow. It wasn't just about losing a partner, but about understanding that the life you had built was not as solid as you thought. I explained that eventually the pain subsided, replaced by determination. I focused on reassuring them of what they needed to avoid getting caught up in adult problems. I told them that even though their mother hurt me, it didn't mean that change was impossible, but it was okay to feel angry or confused. Charlotte asked if I still loved her. I paused before answering, searching for absolute sincerity. I explained that love doesn't disappear instantly, but it changes. I didn't love her the same way anymore because love and trust are inseparable. With the loss of trust, love became something different, perhaps respect for our years together, or simply a desire for her happiness away from us. Carter hesitated before asking the anticipated question. He wanted to know if it was wrong to feel so angry towards his mother. His voice trembled, as if fearing that my answer would confirm his worst fears. I assured him that anger was natural, especially in the face of disappointment in someone loved and trusted. It did not make him a bad person to feel hurt or betrayed. The important thing, I explained, was to manage those feelings. It was acceptable to be angry, but not to let that anger consume you or dictate your actions. Charlotte spoke next, her voice smaller than usual. She asked if it made them bad people to hate her. That question struck me because no child should face such dilemmas. I chose my words carefully. I told them that hate was a powerful term that should not be used lightly. It was understandable not to feel affection for their mother at the moment, but hating her was not something I wished for them. Hatred could become a burden that would only weigh them down over time. I explained that they didn't need to forgive her immediately or ever, but neither did they need to allow her actions to define their lives. Charlotte nodded thoughtfully, but Carter seemed skeptical. She asked if I still hated her mother. That surprised me. I looked at them, admitting that I had been very angry for a long time. I confessed that I would not lie and say that I had completely forgiven her, but I had learned to let go of the anger because it did me no good. Then, as if they had planned it, they both asked an unexpected question. They wanted to know if I would get married again. I was perplexed, feeling my mind momentarily freeze. Marriage hadn't even been an option since the divorce, but they were clearly concerned about it. Carter pressed the issue, asking if I would like to find another life partner. Before I could answer, Charlotte interrupted, asking if I would act as their mother if I got married again. That almost took my breath away. They were looking at me expectantly, seeking reassurance. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees as I gathered my thoughts, and told them honestly that I didn't know if I would ever marry again, but they could trust that my love and loyalty to them would never change. I assured Charlotte that nothing in the world would make me abandon them or put anyone before them. Charlotte seemed to relax slightly, but Carter remained thoughtful. He asked how I could be so sure, and I told him that being their father was my most important role in life. No matter what, that would never change. I reminded them that actions speak louder than words, and hoped they had seen enough to believe in my unconditional support. Charlotte asked if I ever regretted marrying their mother, and that question tightened my chest, but I told her that without that marriage, I wouldn't have them, who represented the best in my life. Finally, the question stopped, and the tension in the room began to dissipate. I could see their minds processing our conversation. I reminded them that it was normal to have complicated feelings towards their mother, without needing to resolve them immediately. I assured them that I was always available to listen to them. Carter nodded slowly as he processed my words. Charlotte said nothing, but she climbed onto the sofa next to me and rested her head on my shoulder. That small gesture seemed like a victory after this conversation. They needed to know that their feelings were legitimate and that they were not facing this confusing and painful situation alone. I didn't have all the answers, but I had them, and that was enough. Update 4. It was Sunday morning when I noticed a car pull up outside. I didn't need to see who was inside to feel the heaviness settling in. My ex-wife, Danielle, was getting out, and to my dismay, her mother was following her. Like a storm approaching, noisy, invasive, and inevitable. But why Sunday? I sighed deeply. Danielle hadn't even bothered to give prior notice of her visit, and even less so about bringing her mother. The children, Carter and Charlotte, were in the living room, busy with their Sunday activities. Charlotte absorbed in her drawings, and Carter mixing music. I left in anticipation of the doorbell, hoping to avoid unnecessary drama. Danielle immediately demanded to see the children, claiming to have come to sort things out. Her mother, equally combative and an expert at making everyone uncomfortable, surveyed the garden with disdain, muttering about the deterioration since Danielle's departure. How absurd. I kept everything up even when Danielle lived here. It took all my self-control not to explode then, but I refused to turn this into shouting. I reluctantly let them in, warning Danielle that this was neither the time nor the place for dramatics. Inside, Carter and Charlotte froze at the sight of their mother and grandmother in the doorway. Charlotte clenched her pencil, while Carter's expression darkened stormily. They didn't say hello, they didn't even move. Danielle ignored their coldness, saying she understood their annoyance, but that they should grow up and behave civilly. Her mother, however, lacked diplomacy. She immediately began lecturing them about respect, family values, and how today's young people did not understand parental sacrifices. Carter reacted first, his voice calm but icy, as he asked his grandmother if she had taught Danielle to be unfaithful to her father. The question cut through the room like a knife, momentarily leaving Danielle and her mother speechless. It even surprised me. Carter continued in the same calm but cutting tone, questioning whether lying and abandoning the family were lessons passed down through the generations. He looked directly at his grandmother, forgetting his phone on the table. The weight of his words left Danielle and her mother struggling to respond. Danielle tried to defend herself, admitting mistakes but denying deserving such disrespect. Her mother intervened, calling Carter and Charlotte ungrateful, ignorant of their mother's sacrifices. That was inappropriate. I immediately ordered her to be quiet. I told her I was talking to my children, and that she could use that language with her daughter's new children. Carter stood up, raising her voice as she told them they were no longer welcome. She said that since the divorce, Danielle was no longer their mother, and their mother was not their grandmother. They were now strangers with no right to lecture about respect when they didn't even practice it. Charlotte added that she didn't need a mother who believed that money was a substitute for loyalty or love, and she definitely didn't need a grandmother who allowed such selfishness. Her voice faltered slightly, but the indignation was unmistakable. I was surprised that Charlotte spoke like that. Any imminent reconciliation seemed impossible. Danielle, visibly shocked, counterattacked by blaming me. She claimed that I had poisoned their minds. Carter interrupted her, explaining that her anger was not due to my influence. It was about her actions. He reminded her that she had made decisions, and now she faced the consequences. My ex's mother, now clearly furious, called Carter disrespectful and accused Charlotte of dramatics. Charlotte's response was intense this time. She asked Danielle if she even knew what kind of mother they needed. She told them both that she and Carter were fed up with trying to explain themselves. They were happy with their father. They didn't need toxic people pretending to care. Danielle made one last attempt, begging them to let her fix things. Carter firmly rejected her, saying they didn't want to be repaired. They wanted her to leave. The tension in the air was unbearable then. Danielle's mother turned to me, accusing me of orchestrating the whole situation. This time I didn't hold back. I told them that if she and Danielle could not respect the boundaries established by my children, then they had no reason to stay. I ordered them both to leave. Danielle protested, raising her voice as she argued injustice. Her mother backed her up, but I had finished listening, ordering them to leave before calling someone to escort them out. Her mother muttered something inaudible, but I didn't care to hear it. I closed the door firmly behind them and found Carter and Charlotte waiting. They were still tense but relieved. They both thanked me for standing up for them, and I assured them that I would always have their backs, no matter what the complications. We were united in this. I think this will be my last update. The situation between us will not improve anytime soon, if ever. Update 5. Many were asking for an update. Honestly, their attempts to contact the children have decreased significantly, and their mother has not visited or called since her last appearance here. The children are fine, and so am I.